Hey y'all, it's Dr. Mixed and welcome back to another video. Took a 2-day break, but I'm back right now and we are on day 18 and things are really heating up. Now, if you want to understand how Masicka built his career, don't start with the streaming numbers. Start with the clash culture. This is just one way in which he expanded his reach. There was a time when Dancehall had its own version of a job interview, and it wasn't a talent show, and it definitely was not social media at that time. It was a clash. Back then, if you said you had lyrics, eventually somebody was going to test that claim. Fans weren't impressed by followers or views because none of that existed. They wanted to know one thing: can you stand in front of another lyricist and hold your own? Back then, this is how reputations were built in dancehall. Artists like Bounty Killer, Beanie Man, Movado didn't become household names on hits alone. Rivalries amplified their names. Every clash pulled in people who might have never listened otherwise. In dancehall, controversy wasn't always bad business. Sometimes it was a marketing plan, and Masicka understood that. When he entered the industry, the clash culture still had value, but it wasn't as dominant as it had been in the 90s and the early 2000s. Sting was beginning to lose its grip, social media was changing how artists promoted themselves, and dancehall was in transition. Masicka saw an opportunity, and instead of waiting for people to discover him, he stepped into the conversation they were already having. And so the rivalry with Aidonia wasn't just about trading diss tracks. It was a way of saying, if you are talking about lyricists in dancehall, my name belongs in that conversation too. Whether people agreed with him or not, it did not matter. They listened. Then came the fallout with Konshens after leaving Subconscious Records. Different situation, same result. More attention, more debate, more people pressing play to hear what Masicka had to say. Masicka went to the studio to pen a song about the situation, calling it Loyalty, and releasing it. Then the clash with Kalado followed. Again, it wasn't about collecting enemies. It was about creating movement and moments. Every clash gave him another opportunity to demonstrate his writing ability in front of a bigger audience. That's the part people often miss. Masicka wasn't chasing beef. He was building visibility, and there's a difference. That's what the clash culture was about. Eventually, the strategy changed, however. Once he had built a fan base and established himself as a lyricist, he no longer needed clashes to keep people interested. The conversation shifted naturally to albums, hit records, international shows, and consistency. And this is something that a lot of artists never managed to do. Some get stuck in being remembered for who they had a clash with, but Masicka managed to move beyond that. And then here comes 2025, and as a clash between Sparta/Gaza and genocide erupts. And then the interesting thing about this clash is that it served a completely different purpose from the earlier ones. I mean, the earlier clashes introduced Masicka as a lyricist and showcased his artistry. And then the Tommy Lee clash reminded both old and new generation of who he was. Around this time that the Sparta and the genocide clash ignited, there were a lot of narratives that were being forced on Masicka's career. You know, like he was a coward and all of that, and he didn't want to answer. Even though Masicka had, changed strategies and had moved on, he had proven himself in previous clashes, it felt like the right time because he also needed to, remind people and prove his street cred again to an entire new generation. And so I feel like that was also a part of the purpose of this particular clash as well. And it worked because a lot of people were silenced after this clash. This particular clash also highlighted how much dancehall has changed. Today's artists don't need a clash to become famous. One TikTok trend, one viral clip, or a playlist placement can change an entire career overnight. Masicka belongs to one of the last generations where you still had to convince dancehall before you could conquer it. That's why clash culture is such an important part of his story. It wasn't a shortcut, it was his launching pad. I feel like we can definitely concur that Masicka used clashes in the early part of his career to earn attention, establish credibility, expose the masses to his lyricism, in Jamaica and the wider dancehall fraternity. And once he had that audience, he stopped relying on clashes and started relying on his catalog. And that's the difference with him and a lot of other artists. The clashes got him through the door, but the music is the reason why people stayed and listened to him. So now that I've introduced you or reminded you of, who Masicka was as a clash artist in the early part of his career, the next few videos are going to get very serious. In my next video, I'm going to delve deep into the clash between Demarco and Masicka. And so stay tuned. Remember to like, subscribe, and share. Stay engaged with my content so you can keep up to date. And remember that Masicka's Forever Rain drops on August 14th, and he hits the Barclays to a sold out show, a sold out crowd on August 15th. Thank you for staying tuned to my video, and until my next video, blessings.